Hi Year 9. Today's lesson, Monday the 2nd, is all about finding a side using the cos ratio. Now the cos ratio is cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Now if you don't know what that means, you really need to go back to some of our previous lessons and have a look at some of the videos that I've made so that it makes sense. Okay, but it's just another form, just like Pythagoras. It's just another mathematical way that some genius mathematician came up with many moons ago, just to find a different side, this time using an angle instead of the three or two sides. Okay, so if you haven't done any of this before, one very important thing is you need to go back and learn how to name the sides. If you already know how to do that, you should be able to do this pretty easily with me. So here's the first one. Label these sides A and H. So if you've already done this, you'll know that it's easiest to label the side opposite the right angle. It's the same as Pythagoras. It's called the hypotenuse. So I'll put an H in there. Okay, now in cos, you'll notice just from that formula before, here it is over here, we're going to use the sides A for adjacent and H for hypotenuse in this formula to help us today to work out the missing sides. So what I need to do here is I need to know my angle, not my right angle, but my angle with a number in it that's not the right angle. What is next to that particular side? Well, we call that the A for adjacent. So if you didn't know this before, adjacent means next to. And our opposite is this one over here, but it's got no numbers or letters on it, so we don't need to use that. So can you have a go at 2 and 3 for me and label which one you think is the hypotenuse and which one is adjacent to the angle, not the 90-degree angle, but the other number angle in there. Okay, so if you haven't already, if you did Friday's sheet, you might already know how to do these. You can have a go while I'm explaining it and see if you get it right. You'll need your calculator for these. Hopefully, if you've got a Casio, you can use the fraction key. So this one here, I'm going to press my fraction key first. I'm on my Casio or my abacus, and I'm going to put 57 up in the top. If you've got a sharp, you can use this as well. You can use your fraction key, but you have to remember to put the cos and the 36 all in brackets. If you've got a Casio or an abacus, you don't need to do that. So I've put 57, then you press your fraction key if you've got your sharp, open your brackets if you've got a sharp, and then press cos. Okay, my calculator opens brackets automatically, that's okay. I'm going to put a 36. Make sure you close the brackets if your calculator open them automatically. Then all I have to do is press equals, and I get this 70.455. But my question says I only need to round it to one decimal place. So let's go over that. That means I'm going to keep the 4 and not those 5s. But a 5 means in the rounding rules that I must add 1 to the 4. So my answer actually becomes 70.5. Now if you didn't get 70.5, if you got something totally different, it might mean that your calculator is again not in degrees mode. Okay, so you need to press shift or second function and set up, and then find where it says deg. Okay, on my Casio it says I press 3 for deg, and that will give me the correct answer of 70.5. Question 5 is the same. Now if you couldn't get that, can you write a comment for me down the bottom if you got a sharp and you don't know how to do it? Or better still, Google it. It's really easy to do. Okay, Google is great for answering stuff. Question number 6. It might, sometimes you'll have working out that looks like this. It actually means you're going to do 94 times cos 36. Bit of algebra in there. If you've got two numbers and a letter shoved together, that means times, doesn't it? So that's exactly what it means in trigonometry. So I'm going to go 94 on my calculator, press times, then I'm going to press cos, and then I'm going to press 36. Again, the brackets are open, so I'm going to close them. Shouldn't have to do the brackets like before. It's just that silly fraction key, sharp people. Press equals, and I get 76.04759. But I don't need all of that, do I? I'm rounding it to one decimal place, so I only look at the 4. I don't need to look at the 7. 4 in the rounding rules means that I don't make any changes, so my answer is just 76.0. Okay, let's move on. Alright, now if you did the sheet the other day, you might follow this again. So the first thing we always do when we're ever doing an actual problem with a triangle is the first thing we do is we label the sides. Now this has been done for us, hasn't it? So label the sides first of all with an A and an H. And then the second thing I have to do is I have to write down my formula. Here they've done that for me as well. The formula to find the missing side x is cos theta equals A over H. Okay, so theta is the angle here. Okay, for those of you who haven't done this before. So I always write that number 25 straight after the cos. Then I write equals, and I look and see what letter or number is on my A side. It's an X, so I'm going to write, that's supposed to be an X if it doesn't look like it. And then on my H side, I have an 11. So I put an 11 there. Now I don't like them writing this here, so I'm going to move that, make it a different colour so it stands out. You now have an equation. I know it doesn't quite look like an equation, but you are going to use your knowledge of equations to work this out. So I'm looking at the right hand side where it says x over 11. Now that means x divided by 11. In equations, we need to get the x on its own. So I have to say to myself, right, well, I've got to get the x on its own, so I have to do the opposite of dividing by 11. What's the opposite of dividing by 11? Hopefully you said, I times by 11. Now they've done that down there, which is the correct mathematical thing, but they write it in a funny spot. So really, if you have an 11 in the top of your fraction and 11 in the bottom of your fraction, mathematically you can cancel those out, which is what I want you to do. And if it's down there, it doesn't quite make mathematical sense. So that's why I don't like it that they write it down there. So just write it to the side like I did. So that means if I cross those ones out, I'm left with x. So that's what I do. I write it here. And then I rewrite this over here. So the 11 comes first and the cos 25 comes second. You can put the times in there if you want. So now I'm going to put that into my calculator. 11 times cos 25, close my brackets if they open, and I get 9.969. Okay, 9. Oh, what happened there? 9. It's not writing. Here we go. 9.969. But I only want it to one decimal place. So let's do it in blue. I'm going to keep that 9, but I'm going to get rid of these ones. But I must look at the 6. 6 is telling me to round that 9 up, isn't it? So that means I actually have to add 1 to this one. If I add 1 to 9, it makes it 10, which means I actually have to add 1 to that 9. So in the end, I actually get 10.0 as my answer. Oh, that's a lot of fun, isn't it? All right. Now, question 11 and 12 are the same as question 10. So I'll give you a minute and I'll get you to have a go at that. Remember, I'll post the answers soon, so you've got those as well. I don't think they're on here, are they? No, they're not. I'll post them up. All right, so now here comes question 13. Question 13 is a little bit different to 10, 11, and 12. So I'll show you how to do this one, and I'll remind you the mathematical intentions behind it for those of you who didn't watch the first video. So this time, here we go. I identify my sides first. So here we go. We've identified the sides. One's an A, one's an H. So over here, the 27 has been written here. Remember the theta, the angle, not the 90, the other angle, is always written after the cos. The adjacent side is this one, it's 66. So I put that where it says adjacent, and my hypotenuse opposite the right angle is x. So I write that on the bottom. Now this one's different to this one, isn't it? Here my x is on the top, here my x is on the bottom. So I need to use a different sort of mathematics to work it out. Here's the long way, and then I'll show you the shortcut. So the same way as we did over here, let's get rid of what the denominator is by multiplying by whatever that denominator is. So here it's x, so I'm going to times both sides by x. When I do that, I cross out the x values. Yay, which is fabulous. So I end up with x times, here I am here, x times cos 27 equals 66. Now if you look at the second line, you'll notice x is on its own. So we need to use our knowledge of equations to get rid of this cos 27. What's the opposite of timesing? Hopefully you said dividing. Good. So that means I have to divide both sides by cos 27. Now don't forget, fraction line here, that means the same as divide, doesn't it? So really what I've done is I've crossed off these two cos's and I've moved the cos 27 over here. So if I rewrite it down here now, I write 66 down here and cos 27 now goes on the bottom. Now that's the long mathematical explanation. If you want to know what the quick way is, all they did was they just swapped the x and the cos 27 over. Okay, so that one went there and the cos 27 went back where the x was. So once you get used to this, you can just use what I call the swap method. Alright, so now we've got to put that into our calculator. 66 divided by, or fraction key is fine. If you've got a sharp, you might want to put it in brackets, cos 27, close brackets, and I get 74.0735. But it only wants it to one decimal place. So let's change color. I'm going to keep the 0, but get rid of these ones, but I must look at the 7. 7 is telling me to round up or add 1 to the 0, so my final answer becomes 74.1 millimeters. Okay, so if you only get through this first column, these first two, maybe 3 columns, that's fabulous. That's plenty today. If you would like a bit more, can I suggest you start trying this middle column here. So what's happening here is you have to start following. This is what's called scaffolded already. So it kind of tells you what to do. Here you've got to figure out what you have to do for yourself. So the first thing you have to do, I'll do number 4 for you. You don't have to do these if you want because they're just the same as the previous sheet. First thing you need to do is you need to label the sides. So let's label the sides. First one I'm going to label is opposite the right angle because I always find that's the easiest. Opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. Now this is a cos sheet, so this kind of helps us. It makes it a bit easier. So I know that next to my 74 is the adjacent side. So that's the first thing I do. Second thing I do is I write down the formula so I know what I'm looking for. There's my formula. Cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Third thing I'm going to do is I am now going to write all my information. Here's my theta. So I'm going to write cos 74 degrees equals A is 43. H is my x. Straight away I've got the unknown on the bottom, so I have to do it like this one. So I'm going to do the swap method so you can see it nice and quickly. So you might run a white swap in there. If you want to do the long way, feel free, that's okay. The swap method is telling me just to swap these two. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the x over here. I'm going to keep the 43 on the top. And I'm going to put the cos 74 degrees on the bottom. So that's the swap method. Once you understand that the x value is in the denominator, the swap method gets the x on its own. Put that in my calculator. Press my fraction key if I've got a Casio. 43 divided by, or fraction key if you have a sharp, over cos 74. Don't forget, if you have a sharp, put the bottom in brackets, otherwise it'll give you, beg your pardon, the wrong answer. So once I do that, I get 156.002 ... And the question, what do they want us to do to the nearest? Does it say? Up the top, I think. 1 decimal place. So that's what I'm going to do it to. Sorry about that, a bit fast. So to 1 decimal place, my final answer becomes 156.0. Because I get rid of those. I look at that second 0, which means I don't really round anything up. This is in centimetres, so write your answer in centimetres. Okay, if you want, have a go. Look, there's some lovely word problems over there in the third column to really test your skills. Okay, see how you go. Good luck, you 9.